name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. Gaming is one of those things that has been controlled by kind of the old guards of the industry. Whether you look at Nintendo, Xbox, and Microsoft, maybe you look at the handhelds or go into the PS4, they're normally devices. And one thing that Netflix is doing that is unique and different is the whole idea around cloud and streaming. Now, this is something that many of the gaming companies and gaming devices have really started to move to and look to going to in the future. The difference is Netflix is taking a little bit different stance on this, and it's going to be an interesting one today. I want to jump to a Game Rant article that basically breaks down what they found out so far. And we're also going to just to give you guys a heads up here, we are going to do a stock prediction. This is not just about gaming in general. We're going to do a stock prediction, but also a little bit about streaming and the technology behind it. But I want to get into some of the things that really is highlighting into this. Basically, the challenges for any streaming service that adds video to the site, the possibilities are endless. You know, if you think about where Netflix has been and what they've been able to accomplish in the terms of the number of new subscribers and being able really to go head to head with Apple, Amazon, and now Disney. And I think eventually we'll see a little bit of a shakeout here. But one thing they did do is they hired a guy by the name of Mike Verdu. Now, you probably recognize this guy. He was the vice president of game development, basically over at Facebook. And Mike was also over at Zynga. And I think, you know, when you look at where this hire is, now, don't get me wrong, this guy I'm sure is a rock star. I feel like this is a little bit old school for maybe the direction they're going. Now, maybe they need some of that old school strategy to kind of set the thing in motion. But I feel like from a technology standpoint, a creative standpoint on the gaming side, I feel like you need that fresh blood. You need some people really coming in from the developer community that's really advancing, whether you go over to EA Sports or you go Rob over at Xbox, or you look at some of the developer houses that are building some of the best games out there. Maybe you go and dive into Fortnite. But the point is you got enough money, Netflix. This is really what you should be doing, is going shopping for the best gaming talent in the industry. They are trying to maintain a competitive edge in growing streaming market, which is basically becoming oversaturated, as I just mentioned. They have 200 million subscribers, active subscribers. This is a big deal. And around 700 million active users worldwide. So they're approaching, holy moly, you think about that. I mean, 1 billion subscribers. Could they grow globally to 1 billion subscribers with gaming as the key component for their growth stimulus? This would be interesting to watch. I wanted to point one thing out. The games are going to appear alongside other categories, so players will not have to basically navigate to a new app or site. Basically, this is going to be a new category right there in your account. Everything will be accessible through Netflix, the app, and website. The subscribers won't have to pay any extra. That's what has basically been rumored, and now we have confirmation on that. Some have speculated, though, that this is going to be a new branch of content to help justify the price hike in the future. This is going to be interesting to kind of see is how they approach the pricing in the future, because eventually this is going to kind of move into it. And we have an analyst review of this as well in terms of stock and what Netflix will have to do as a company. Will they be able to hold on to this in terms of the regular Netflix value? I personally think that the value is going to have to show up in the app. They're really going to have to do something special to kind of jump to that next layer of pricing and charge for gaming. But you know, Apple's been able to do it with arcade. I'm an arcade user. We have it in our house, and I pay that $5 a month, and it's, you know, the kids love it. But there is one thing that Apple has to do. They need to inject more content and more games, where Netflix is sitting on a treasure trove and library of content. That's where it's going to get interesting. Let's jump back to here. The Black Mirror episodes remain, Black Mirror. This is going to be an interactive Black Mirror experience from the gaming side. So you could choose your own adventure, making choices basically from your remote control. This is going to be fun. I think this will be the first time, at least, that I think this is revolutionary. If Netflix can pull this off in terms of quality, experience, and the UX, if they do this, this could revolutionize live action gaming and really kind of the element of what you're doing in terms of immersed content and getting involved in the content itself. We have seen that in some virtual, virtual applications, but it hasn't been something that has rolled out in terms of mass. This is going to be able to make it to the mass, mainly mass adoption, which is going to be huge. Netflix's commitment also is going to reside in the storytelling aspect. So I think that's going to be a thing that really starts to separate them in terms of holding on to their, these big titans in terms of what they've built in terms of the content areas, and being able to take those and ramp them on further up, whether it's Black Mirror or you look at others like Stranger Things. I think that in itself is going to be interesting. Back to this, Netflix has licensed its own vast library of original content for video game adaptation. This is going to be cool because I think this might go into a whole cottage industry for game developers that will eventually be moving into launching games on Netflix, much like what you see on the Microsoft Store or other platforms out there, whether it's PS4 or any of those kind of things. Maybe we start to see companies like EA Sports starting to create elements around that, especially around sporting events or any kind of sporting applications that could be implemented from a streaming side. That would be interesting to watch. The other thing is 85% of all new Netflix spending has been on original content. This is a big deal. They've basically doubled down on their own content production. If you look at where Stranger Things, The Umbrella Academy, Ozark, for example, these all will most likely see game adaptations on the platform. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. This is the thing I would love, seeing The Witcher in a video application, really in a game application. I think that would be in Netflix would be unbelievable. So that in itself, I think is going to be fun to watch. And just to confirm, yes, they are expanding. They did confirm expanding the games will be included at no extra cost. So here's the thing. When you look at Netflix and the value proposition that they're bringing to the content streaming wars, we'll call them, this really starts to separate them because Apple has been able to do it with Arcade and with iTunes and on Apple TV to a certain extent. Remember, Apple has a problem with being able to create a lot of content. Now, they create great content, but being able to do it at scale is the challenge. And that is the one thing that Netflix has shown that they've been able to do and be able to keep up with what the demand is in terms of streaming requirements. And I think that's just going to continue to grow with both population adoption in streaming. More and more, we're going to be seeing streaming adaptation of how platforms are starting to move in this direction. I went and got a new iPhone the other day, and now AT&T is trying to move all of their Dish subscribers onto their streaming AT&T service, which surprised me because essentially that's moving all the hardware out, which I think eventually is going to be the scenarios. We're just going to see a streaming application, both for live TV and also this. But imagine if Netflix can start to maybe license this out into the industry. I want to get into the analysis and where are the trouble points. This is all not going to be an easy path for Netflix. Let's jump to this Reuters article. Netflix gaming foray will cost time and money, according to Wall Street. There are some interesting things in this piece that I thought would be cool to kind of call out. The analysts welcome this whole concept around mobile gaming on Wednesday, calling it a sensible move to keep users' eyes on screens. Mainly, I think they want to keep from losing subscribers because this is getting very heated in the streaming wars. Announcing the move this quarterly results, the video streaming pioneer offered little detail about the investment it plans. This is where it's very gray. And Greg Peters basically said multi-year. Greg Peters is their basically the product guy for Netflix when it comes to game streaming. But basically, it's going to be a multi-year investment plan. And if you compare to what Apple has done, which was with Arcade, $500 million was the investment for Apple. Apple's continuing to look at moving more money into that. They need to now because those games are going to get old quickly. And I think being able to move it, I mean, even my own kids, they've already kind of started to fatigue the arcade. And I think that's the scenario. $500 million is table stakes for Netflix. But here's the beauty. Netflix has a lot of IP already in place. And I think that's going to move things along very quickly. One thing that they said, making games for free will drive users, but it's not sustainable in the long term as the business model he had. And so basically what he's saying is you're going to pay for this in the future. The likelihood is that it may or may not necessarily be, I don't know. This will be interesting. Will it be a freemium, or will you, maybe it'll be a rental, or maybe it'll be a premium content? That's something that I've still been surprised that Netflix hasn't been able to do what Disney has done on releasing that premium content within the app of the streaming service and just making it that extra $10, $15 bump for that, for that use case. In the gaming scenario, a 30-day rental or something like that. Maybe you go in, instead of buying a game, you do a $20 or $19.95 purchase. I think this could be a really good revenue generator for them. The gaming plans as Netflix faces slowdown growth in subscribers after a record surge during the, obviously, the scenario. It basically disappointed markets on Tuesday with an anemic set of subscriber forecasts. That's the problem. I think that is the issue that Netflix is facing, and it's going to be one of those things that they have to overcome because Disney is coming, and they're coming for their subscribers. And I think Disney, with just the onslaught of great content that's flowing into Disney right now, this is almost a little bit of a desperation move, I think. And I know Netflix, very powerful. I mean, come on, 700 million users. That's a massive marketplace. But if they can grow that up, or if they can see really that layered vertical integration that a lot of companies have tried to do other than streaming services, which Disney has been able to do very effectively. So I think that's going to be cool. Back to my point is, if they want to be directly competitive with Apple Arcade, this investment should be at least a template, which is, as I said, Netflix spent almost $12 billion in content last year, $17 billion in 2021. I think they're going to have to move into more like the billion-dollar price tag for gaming and really open up the platform to kind of move it at the next level. So this will be fun to watch. It's going to be one of those things that if you are a Netflix investor right now, you might be in at the right spot. And I want to go to the chart here, kind of show where it's moving. We pulled a couple of amplification scores on Netflix, and also their sentiment over the past little bit here. And this was in July 15th during this little bit of a dip right here. That was setting sentiment in at 60.59, which is a very strong sentiment score, by the way. Anything over a 50 is great sentiment. If you get into the 60s or 70s, you're really, that's a high flyer. Tesla floats in the 70s. Apple floats in the 70s. Those kinds of stocks. This one, amplification, holding out at 51.34, also very strong. And then you look at the sentiment next dip right here, a little stable, and then we saw this little drop off right here, which went from around 543 down to what we saw right around the announcement period, which was 515. That was after their earnings and their weak growth numbers. But right here, sentiment fell a little bit, 58.66, and amplification went up slightly. So I think the sentiment went down because of the reports. Amplification went up because of the opportunity. That did create a little bit of a bump right here. And you can kind of see it going a little sideways and then making a little bit of a run right here before it gets into some chop right now as we are trading today. So holding at what could be around a 535. Here's where I think this is going. If they are able to roll this out, here's the key. If they're able to roll this out and get gaming into the hands of Netflix users here in the United States at least, and that's kind of the plan, is to roll out here in the US first. If they can do it to the 200 million subscribers and they do it in 2021, and even if it's just a handful of games, this is going to really show the direction for Netflix. One, their ability to do it. Two, the ability for consumption numbers, because I would imagine if we get this done by maybe Q4, we're going to start to see a lot of movement in the stock. And I think we'll start to see a Q3 potential subscriber growth bump because of gaming if they can get a window in there and actually make this available. So this is the key. This is the key on being able to hit this price target, which I think is going to land around 690 by year end. If you look back here to the chart, 690, providing they roll out the gaming on time, that's going to be the key. By year end, we're looking at, hopefully you purchased here on a little bit of the dip, which was around 520 over the past little bit. And if you are, then this is one of those stocks that could get you a nice little return. Maybe you've bought Netflix much earlier and you're looking at an exit point. This, I think, might be a scenario where you really start to watch what's happening. This is the deciding factor for Netflix on whether or not they can keep up with Disney. This is really what it boils down to, because they've pretty much saturated their user growth, as you can see from their subscriber numbers, and the opportunity is going to be in vertical and also opening up to a new set of subscribers that maybe have not considered Netflix in the past, and that will come from gaming and gaming only. If they do it successfully, this is the crown jewel that I think could position them as the head-to-head for Disney. So this will be the thing to watch. If you're listening over on the podcast, make sure and give us some stars over there. If you're here on YouTube, make sure and subscribe right now. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think Netflix can pull this off in the gaming category? Do you think they can go head-to-head with Disney in streaming with gaming added? Do you think they can compete with Microsoft and Sony? Do you think they're even going to understand how streaming can move in the gaming market, or are they reinventing gaming altogether? Any of those comments down below in the topics. And of course, if you want to reach out to me on Twitter, it's just @Paul Barron. I'll leave my DMs open for you. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.